Good morning. It is our State of the City 2022. This is part of our Coffee and Conversation series that the Chamber presents that is sponsored by the Tinsley Family Concessions and Lynn Polston Insurance Agency, Allstate Insurance. My name is Jennifer Fasting and I'm the chairperson of the Chamber Board. And as this group and everyone here is aware, Winter Haven is experiencing significant growth. You may have seen in this month's issue of Haven Magazine, we looked back at the last 10 years and all the progress that has been made. As noted at the very beginning of the article, almost everyone that was interviewed talked about and credited collaboration as really that secret component or that secret sauce that has been key to our community's success. The Winter Haven Chamber has been very honored to be a key community partner in all of the progress and as we lay the groundwork for our future. As Katie noted in the article, it's economic development organizations like Main Street, like the Chamber and the Economic Development Council all working together who not only understand the part that they play in this puzzle, but also share that common vision of where we want to go as a community. Perhaps more importantly, Katie went on, the policymakers, our city staff, and city commission have a pro-business and pro-community enhancement attitude, trying to really balance the demands that come with growth and our desire to remain truly authentic to who we are as a city and a community. As you're going to see today, we are incredibly blessed. We have a team in the city government who has a very proactive approach to planning, problem solving, and really anticipating our community's needs as we position Winter Haven for the future. We want this to be an attractive location for families, for businesses, and others to relocate. But what all the staff does really would not be possible without the forethought, support, and guidance that our city officials and our elected officials play. We want to thank each of our city commissioners for being very active and engaged in our business community. It is now my official pleasure to invite Mayor Brad Danzler to our stage to give our official welcome for this morning's presentation.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. Before I begin, I would like to make sure we formally introduce my fellow commissioners. We have everybody's here today. I know Mayor Pro Tem Nathaniel Birdsong, Commissioner Tracy Mercer is here, Commissioner Brian Yates is here, and of course J.P. Powell. I see him back here in the back. So all the commissioners are here, so that's a good sign when we're all here. So thanks again to the Chamber for putting this on. As a former Chamber President and now the Mayor, it warms my heart to see the relationship that the city has with the Chamber of Commerce and de facto the business community. And we do. We have a really good relationship, very strong working relationship with the Chamber. And again, part of my comments is a lot of these things that you're going to see today are not by accident. It's been a lot of hard work. The same way with the relationship with the Chamber. It's been a lot of hard work and a lot of effort going in to build a relationship that we have. So, and as Jennifer said, we have a lot of really exciting, tremendous amount of growth that's going on, and that's a big challenge and a big blessing, but we have to try to manage that growth as best we can. And I, as a commissioner and as the mayor, I believe we're striking a really good balance between growth and planning for our future. We do have a healthy reserve, but we're actually deploying that reserve wherever it's possible and wherever it's prudent. So that's a good thing. That's why you're seeing a lot of projects coming up out of the ground. You're going to hear from our incredible staff today. Everyone, a lot of the real leaders of our staff, and you're going to see how Winter Haven's investing in a quality of life. And isn't that really what it's all about anyway, is quality of life and what we do on a daily basis. You're going to hear all kinds of neat stuff, but at the end of the day, it's all about quality of life, and that's what we're all striving for. So, you know, and the other thing is, as an employer, Winter Haven strives, as a city, Winter Haven strives, really strives above and beyond to try to incorporate inclusiveness, professional development. We try to create long-term careers for our employees, and you're going to see that today, a lot of long-term people. You're going to see a lot of younger people coming up here. That's what warms my heart, is to see young, innovative people coming and working for the city, bringing their creative ideas and their the way they look at the world a little bit differently, which is great. That's what we need. And if something that happens today, if you're watching on Zoom or if you're here today and something piques your interest, please get involved, because we do need the next generation of people to get involved, whether it's volunteering or whatever it may be. We encourage you, we actively encourage you to get involved and to help us with some of these things. So with that, I get to introduce somebody that needs no introduction. Sometimes I call him assistant city manager, assistant to the city manager, deputy city manager, or just that guy that knows where all the bathrooms are. So with that, T. Michael, come up.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here today. I thought it was pretty cool that the mayor said that all these young people were coming up here. Gary and Charlie and I have never felt so blessed. Thanks, Brad. So this team is going to go ahead and come out on stage, and I'm going to give some introductions, but I want to give you a little, just kind of walk through what we're going to do today. You've been to State of the City addresses before. You've seen PowerPoint after PowerPoint of how we do things, and we're going to try it a little different today. So on your table, you have a QR code. And we have taken all the information that we're going to present today, exactly what's going to be on the screen behind me, and it is in a GIS storyboard. Savannah Winstanley, one of the brilliant young minds on our staff, and MJ Carnevale put this together in record time to make this possible today. You can actually follow along on your cell phone. Take a picture of that QR code. It will launch you into a website, and you can track this throughout the presentation. If you want to see more of the details, it scrolls past that. You have it right there on your phone. We'll also be making this available to all of our citizens via our website, so that everybody, even those that couldn't be here today, have access to the information. Our goal today, we're going to stay a cruising height of about 35,000 feet. Feel free to take off your seatbelts, roam about the cabin. Bathrooms are in the back. I do know where the bathrooms are here. We're going to touch very little on detail. We're going to go very high level and give you an understanding, or a kind of a sneak peek and overview of what some of our major capital projects are, what are some of the growth things that are happening in Winter Haven that are driving that growth. And then we're going to have Mr. Herr come up and really get into, you know, it's not just about where we invest our dollars, but it's where we invest our time and our energies with respect to engaging our citizens and making this a more diverse and inclusive environment for all, as well as what are some of those legislative things that are hot on our heels that we need to be mindful of, that will also have a significant influence on how we operate in the coming years. The team behind me I want to introduce real quick. Julie Adams is the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. Robert Van Druten is one of our key people within Information Technologies. Our business manager, I believe is the official title now, I'm not real sure. Business Technology Support Manager. Alex Vaca, many of you may have not met Alex before. Alex is the Director of our Airport Operations. MJ Carnevale, Director of Public Works. Charlie Bird, Public Safety Director. Gary Hubbard is the Director of Winter Haven Water. And Eric Labby is the Director of Economic Opportunity and Community Investment. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric. I think you're going to kick off. These folks are all going to be up here kind of off to the wings, and you will hear from all of them throughout the morning.
All right, good morning, Winter Haven. Welcome to the Ritz Theater in beautiful, award-winning downtown Winter Haven. I have the great opportunity to be the Director of Economic Opportunity and Community Investment for the city. Which means I get to see a lot of the projects, new development and growth that's coming to the city before a lot of other people get to see it, we get to put our fingers on it and have an influence in what it is. And so I'm going to go through a little bit about what has happened over the last 10 years and what we see moving forward. It should be to nobody's surprise that we've had a significant amount of growth over the last 10 years. In fact, we've grown in population at about 50% over the last 10 years, from 2011 until 2021, according to the U.S. Census. And I'll tell you that last year we permitted 1,000 single-family residences. This year we permitted about 930 single-family residences, and we have grown primarily in terms of population in the single-family residential realm. That's both good and it has its challenges. We have grown mostly in the north and southeast portions of the city, and so we understand what that means as far as transportation and infrastructure impacts. And as we go through this presentation, I think you'll see some of the ways that our team is addressing those impacts. We know from just experience and studies that we've done, the Workforce Housing Action Plan, and other planning documents that we've done, we've known for a number of years that we needed to diversify our housing stock. We are significantly underserved when it comes to multifamily or townhome or other types of residential dwelling units. It is coming, ladies and gentlemen. We know that we have almost 800 units that are either approved and under construction. Beautiful rain dance project right here in downtown, under construction, or are in site plan review currently. And so we have those units coming. We know there are over 1,000 units of other projects, multifamily projects out there that are working their way through the pipeline, whether it be zoning approvals or other approvals. And we know that approximately 500 or so are going to be in the downtown core of beautiful Winter Haven. So we're very excited about that, to bring that mix of housing stock to the city of Winter Haven. That helps us on a number of fronts as far as workforce, housing, and bringing different industries to our city and providing for those needs and services. We also have several affordable housing developers. We've been working very hard to engage affordable housing and workforce housing developers in order to be able to serve that population as well. And there are a couple hundred units that are going through their approval process, have applied for state credits, and we hope that those projects will be coming out of the ground very, very soon in Winter Haven. I believe that, let's see, what's the next growth forward on? Tourism-based growth. We've seen that a lot over the last 10 years. We just celebrated the 10-year anniversary of Legoland coming to our city, and they continue with rapid growth in that park. You know that we all celebrated when they opened their first hotel. Since then, they've got 2 hotels on site. They have the Beach Retreat on Lake Dexter, and we are seeing additional tourism-based growth. We have currently 4 hotels working through the approval process, 1 under construction off of Cypress Gardens Boulevard, now 2 located in beautiful downtown. Additional restaurants that are coming to the area based on the tourism growth. Legoland is continuing to grow. They've got a couple of new attractions. Peppa Pig will be open next month, I believe, was their front gate attraction. They're going to have a boat ride, the Pirate Quest, that they're in design and permitting for right now, so we're excited about that as well. And of course, the Advent Health and Fieldhouse and Conference Center is bringing more and more visitors and guests to the city of Winter Haven with all of the events and activities that are happening there. And Julie and her team are so wonderful at managing that facility. But we see sporting events and conferences and national cornhole championships and all sorts of events coming to the Fieldhouse and Conference Center, which of course just boosts our economy here locally in the city of Winter Haven. And so we're very blessed to see that. We see more and more of that activity coming in the next 10 years as we look forward. I believe Julie's up next. Yes. ILC, I'm sorry, ILC. As you can tell, we just kind of put this together recently. So I apologize. ILC, this is a wonderful opportunity for the city of Winter Haven that is long overdue. We recently, in fact, I think in the next week or two, we will issue the final CO for the Florida Can manufacturing facility out in the southeast part of our city. This is a facility that we worked very closely with the owners and developers to bring to the city of Winter Haven about several $100 million worth of capital investment, about 300 new jobs to the area. We recently applied for and received about a $9 million grant from the state of Florida to build a new road through this facility, and that will provide workforce access and make this industrial area far more attractive to prospective tenants. I can tell you that there is a developer, in fact a partner in the ownership of this project that is currently a design for a 1.2 million square foot warehouse to go out here at the ILC. They will be submitting plans for that warehouse very shortly. It is a spec warehouse. They already have several tenants lined up. And the exciting part of the things that I unfortunately can't tell you about right now because of confidentiality, but there are several prospective tenants that are investigating the ILC, some very large tenants that would bring several hundred, if not thousands, of jobs to the city of Winter Haven. And so we're just looking forward to the future of the ILC.
All right, good morning, everyone. Excited to be with you all this morning to talk a little bit about parks and green spaces and recreation opportunity. Again, I'm Julie Adams. I'm the Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture. One of the newest amenities that we have in the southeastern section of our beautiful town is the Pocket Park that's adjacent to the brand new Fire Station 3. And currently we have our first dog park open. We have sections there for the little guys and the big guys, so they can play separately and safely. And what you will see adjacent to that are some recreation amenities, a picnic pavilion, restrooms, and some shade structures so you can go out and not die on a hot day, as we have here coming up shortly. So that is what you see behind me is the rendering of what the park is expected to look like. So we're excited to have that, and we're aiming to open either the mid or end of summer this year. So we'll see some movement on that very quickly. Also, we have the Channel Lakes Phase 2. So Eric just mentioned awesome amenity that we have at the Advent Health Fieldhouse on the Channel Lakes property, and the Channel Lakes Phase 2 is going to develop the balance of that property. So what you see before you now is our current structure. We're going to be renovating the entire balance of that property to only add to the amenities that are currently there. We will have a 4-field baseball field complex, a multi-purpose field, an open entertainment space. One of my favorite parts of this project is that we're actually going to activate the shoreline. That is in the master planning process now, and so we're still going through and deliberating how that's going to look in a final presentation, but the activation of the shoreline is going to open up access from Lake Lulu. There will be loop sidewalks throughout there, creating pedestrian connection throughout the park. And we're really excited to have that be a grand entertainment complex in addition to the amenities that are already existing within the Advent Health Fieldhouse. Obviously, with something like that, if you guys were around for Snow Central, you know that there was some traffic in that area. So with that, I know that's a concern that everybody's probably thinking right now, all right, Julie, what are you going to do about the traffic? So I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm going to let MJ do that.
Morning, everybody. So as we tour around the city here, we're going to try to tie everything together geographically. So obviously with the improvements at the Fieldhouse and Conference Center, as well as just the general growth we're seeing, if anybody travels either Highway 17 or 1st Street in the afternoon, I think you know why these improvements are needed. But the DOT has graciously offered to partner with us on this. And so this project is going out to bid at the beginning of this year, and you guys should start seeing construction before the end of the year. And so that'll improve the intersection movements at US 17 and 1st Street, and make some other improvements from 1st Street from Cypress Gardens all the way back to Avenue O. And so now we're going to travel west into the city and talk about some pedestrian improvements. So having safe pedestrian corridors is something that's really important to the community. And so one of the big projects we have coming is the South Lake Howard pedestrian enhancements. Right now, this is a part of the city where no sidewalks exist. There's a lot of people that traverse the right-of-way on a regular basis. So this project is in the early design stages, so we're at about 30%, but we should be under construction before the end of the year and be ready to wrap that up by next year. And I'm going to kick it back to Julie to talk about Sertoma Park a little bit.
All right, so for those of you that are youth baseball enthusiasts or live in the area of town around Sertoma Park, you've likely seen all of the activity that's happening at that park. We completely renovated the baseball fields, the entire park there, to include a lot of the utility work, drainage work, but when you go by now, you see the stuff that you can really appreciate, which is the brand new sod that looks absolutely beautiful. If you're a grass nerd like us Parks and Rec folks are, you just don't even want to touch it. It's so nice. But that is a ton of enhancements done that will last, further into the future. One of the neat parts of this project is we've cleared out some of the lakeside, and there will be loop sidewalks connecting all sections of that area with Lake Ship Park. So if you're a parent or an avid baseball watcher, you can have opportunities for exercise and seeing some of the beautiful amenities that are lakeside there. So we are excited to be wrapping up that project, and we are on time, and I'll just do this, I won't say anything, to be enjoying and hosting the Jamboree at the end of February in that park. And now I'll turn it back over to someone. No? Okay, MJ.
So the South Lake Howard Nature Park, we're going to be making some expansions to that. Julie's team will actually come in after we do some initial work in there and add some boardwalks and trails and park amenities, that kind of thing. But before we get to that, we will build stormwater infrastructure. So South Lake Howard Nature Park is interesting because it was one of our first forays into the stormwater park concept. So a lot of communities, they'll build a big stormwater treatment area, and then they'll just fence it off and keep everybody out. The city had the foresight to design recreation elements within that, and so we have the opportunity now to expand that. I think that that's a good project to kind of segue into some stuff Gary's going to talk about related to One Water, and how that same kind of concept and idea of merging and integrating different community functions into one project can be expanded out into the larger community.
Good morning, thank you, MJ. So we're talking about, what really drives growth and development within Winter Haven. Well, we're the chain of lake city, so naturally the most important thing for us to protect is the chain of lakes and our lakes and our environment. In 2018, we began envisioning what will have to happen to make sure that we're prepared for future growth. And that led to the development of a One Water Master Plan. So what is a One Water Master Plan? Well, basically it's protecting our resources, preparing for future development, and making sure that we leave this place in a better place than we have at the current time for our children, grandchildren. So, but the One Water Master Plan is a 70-year plan. So, Eric was talking about population and what is going to happen in the next 10, 20 years. The current service area of the utility is about 94,000 people today. So that's very, very large. Basically, that's going to double in the next 50 years. That's tremendous. That's a lot to think about. But the One Water Master Plan looks at what do we need to do from a utility standpoint? How are we going to address the lakes, stormwater, recreation? We already talked about the quality of life. That's really what One Water Master Plan is all about. So the One Water Master Plan is an adaptive plan. So this is not a one-time, you put it on the shelf, you're done. Every 5 years we need to reevaluate. So the big part of the One Water Master Plan is what we call the Sapphire Necklace. And what the Sapphire Necklace envisions, is renovation of about 5,000 acres of wetlands. Those would be nature parks and a 30-mile trail loop around the city. That would be a multi-mode trail loop. And along that loop, there would be utility corridors to allow us to move water where we needed it. So moving to what's happening in central Winter Haven.
Okay, so we're traveling back central Winter Haven, eastern part of the city here, out where 27 and 542 connect. If anybody's been through this corridor lately, you know there's a little construction going on out there. But it's a big improvement in the community. The DOT's spending $43 million out there to address traffic volume. So as we grow, we're trying to address that traffic volume. It should help this corridor, but something to keep in mind with transportation planning is that this should help alleviate pressure on the Cypress Gardens Boulevard corridor also. And it's about 50% complete, so if you travel that corridor frequently, just, you know, we're going to get there. DOT's hard at work on that, and the contractor that's out there has been moving along really quick, actually. And there's a lot of, Gary's got a lot of utility improvements out that way also that go through that whole corridor to make sure that our system can handle all the growth happening in that area. So back on pedestrian connectivity, this is a really exciting project. It's been talked about for a very long time, but the city will be building a trail that will circumnavigate all of Lake Elbert. So the design for that is underway. We anticipate getting construction underway as soon as we finish the design, and so probably within the next couple of years, you'll see this project come to reality. Now we're going to move towards downtown, and we'll let Eric talk a little bit more about some of the economic development happening in downtown.
So, as everybody in this room is well aware, downtown has gone up through a tremendous revitalization over the last 20 years or so, thanks no in small part to many of you in this room today. The next 10 or 20 years of downtown is going to be even better. We're very excited. Part of smart growth and what we look at is that we want to provide these mixed-use opportunities for people to live, work, and play, and what better place to do that in the heart of your city, in the downtown. We are seeing more residential development coming to downtown so that people, that actually gets vehicle trips off the road. People can go to their office, get dinner, get lunch, recreate, do all their activities in one location. I actually know one individual in this room that doesn't even own a car, lives downtown and does all of his activities here. We have two wonderful hotels that are in the either site plan review process or the planning process for downtown, again, building on that tourism-based industry and the attractiveness of our downtown and bringing guests into the heart of our city. The Rain Dance apartment complex is under construction, but we're very excited about that, and there are, like I said earlier, about 400 or 500 more downtown living units that are scheduled to be on the way. We've seen, even through the pandemic, a number of new retailers and restaurants come to our downtown. We think that's just an indicator of the strength of our community and our local economy. Lucille's and Adler's and Haven Coffee, to my understanding, are all doing very well in our downtown. There's a new restaurant, Lucille's, which is under construction right now, which will be locating on 3rd Street, down by the BB&T Bank and the Water Tower area. And so we're also working on a number of transportation projects and improvements in the downtown core with complete streets. We're engaging with FDOT on a redesign of 1st Street, heading from Central north through Florence Villa. And so we're really planning on the future of downtown, and we're so very excited for it.
All right, so now we're going to look at some of those projects that Eric's starting to touch on. So as we bring all these people into downtown, hotels and businesses and apartments, we need things for those people to do and ways for them to get around. So one of the first projects you'll see come to fruition here is some sidewall cafes in the area of Central Avenue around 3rd Street. I'll scroll that down one second. Thanks. So you'll start to see these come in. We're nearing final design on these right now, and we'll be under construction here shortly. Another project. So this one isn't sexy, right? But garbage. You bring people into downtown, they bring garbage with them. You got to find a way to get rid of that garbage. So right now, this is what our solid waste collection facilities look like in a lot of downtown. It's just dumpsters and alleyways. So we're looking to try to change our collection facilities. And this is one of the first projects we're working on. We're adding on to the existing parking garage. And the idea is that nobody will ever know that there's solid waste collection happening back there. And that gives us an opportunity to then go back to those alleyways that are full of dumpsters right now and activate them into spaces that look like that. Okay, so complete streets projects, you've heard that term a little bit. Basically what that means is we're looking at an entire corridor. So we're looking at everything from street lighting to drainage to sidewalks to the pavement itself and various amenities along the way, landscaping. And so we have a number of these projects going on, so we're going to just touch on a few here. So the 2nd Street Southwest corridor project, we've just started design on that in November, and really what the goal there is to bring the streetscaping elements you see in the rest of downtown kind of down through that corridor. So that'd be things like pavers and some lighting and improved crosswalks, and trying to manage traffic flow a little bit and create safer pedestrian movements. The Avenue C Southwest and 2nd Street project, we actually had a public coordination meeting on that last night, and you should see dirt starting to turn out there in the next week or so. And that project, kind of same thing. We're adding drainage, we're changing the traffic flow a little bit, trying to make it safer, redoing some of the asphalt out there, and in some cases rebuilding the road where it's in very bad condition. But that project, that'll be getting underway, and it'll be done probably fall of this year. The 6th Street Southwest project, this is a little farther out, but we'll start design on this next summer, but good to have on the radar. So it'll go from 17 all the way down to Avenue G by Marine Supply. And so same kind of thing, drainage, pedestrian enhancements. Right now, if you've driven that corridor, it's just this big sea of asphalt out there. So trying to slim that down a little bit and make some more space for pedestrians to move around. All right, 1st Street North, Eric talked about this a little bit, but that's a DOT-led project. That's a big effort. Design's underway right now. Just a project to keep an eye on and be aware of. And then our Avenue K Complete Street project. So this is kind of the gateway corridor, right, from 1st Street up towards Polk State College. And so there's a lot of pedestrians that move through there now. And again, it's another place where we have no pedestrian infrastructure. So we're coming in, we're adding pedestrian infrastructure, we're redoing the road, we're adding some traffic calming elements in there, fixing some old drainage problems. But that project is at 100% design and should be under construction later this year. And then last one for me downtown here is the streetscape, the Piazza project. So this will take the parking lot to the east of the Chamber and turn it into a piazza, similar to what we have in South Central Park. And then we'll add some streetscaping elements up 4th Street, up around the corner there by Carlton's Music. And I'm going to let Julie tell you about a cool project that's getting under design right next door.
So yes, adjacent to where MJ was just talking about with that complete street project in Joyce B. Davis Park, we are in the design phase right now for just an uplift of that park. If you've been through the connected Chain of Lakes Trail that does serve as the connectivity in the linear park system downtown, you may have noticed that Joyce B. Davis just could use a little love. So we are taking this time to be able to do that and modernize it and just bring it up to par with the rest of the area in that downtown corridor, and also in anticipation of the hotel that's coming down into that area to provide a little bit more beautification and place to recreate downtown. Also, one of the really neat things that we are approaching completion on downtown is the MLK Park. That has been an effort that has began with the skate park and some of the improvements to the amphitheater, and now will be rounding out completion with the addition of the building. If you've been by there, you've seen it. The building is actually going vertical with the observation deck. That's going to be a really neat space for a ton of events, a beautiful event space with sidewalks, with ambient sound system throughout the park. So for those of us that are event planners, love to see that we can have noise and music and announcements that everyone throughout the park can hear. We've really worked hard to have that be a space for everyone, but one of the biggest things that we're excited about as an event space is hosting the 100th anniversary of Water Ski that's coming up in 2022. If you've been downtown, you've seen, or if you haven't seen it, pay attention to it. The water tower is already waving the flag of that celebration that's happening, and that's a partnership with Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing. We're really, really excited to have that in that space. In addition, that we are paying homage to Martin Luther King Jr. in that space. We are working really diligently with the community to have that be, to pay homage to what he was to the community. A memorial is going up. We're putting the finishing touches on that as we speak. We're actually working, Grammar Queen and me is working on all of that right now with my team. So really excited to what that's going to provide, in addition to the improvements that have been made that may not be so obvious that MJ and his team have worked on. Also, in that park, we're going to be having connectivity for Wi-Fi to serve as a hub for connection. And so my coworker Robert behind me is going to talk a little bit more about connectivity throughout the city and bridging that digital divide.
Thanks, Julie. So as you see, our city continues to grow, and as it grows, we want to continue our investment in fiber and our smart city connectivities. So we're going to utilize our fiber footprint to install smart city elements and high-speed gigabit Wi-Fi in all of our facilities and parks. From the renovated Winter Haven Rec and Cultural Center to our downtown Central Park, we are dedicated to providing gigabit speed Wi-Fi access to the public and all of our citizens. As we've seen during the pandemic, there are some in our community that do not have access to technologies and internet access. Well, it's becomes problematic as they cannot do online banking, they cannot do online education, they cannot do the modern day things that we all are used to. So in that, the city sees that issue of the digital divide, and to address that, we're going to utilize our fiber optic high-speed connectivity in all of our facilities and park to provide the best technology and the best internet accessibility for our citizens. So as part of that digital divide, that's a bigger effort that we're looking at to close the bridge and the gap on. So with that, we're going to be working with the county and the Department of Broadband to find funding opportunities for future fiber investments. So it's about being connected. It's about people having access to all of our technologies throughout the city and more access for more people. So with that, we want to think about, when we think about fiber, we're not investing in a cable in the ground. We're investing in the future of our infrastructure for our city and for our community. So we're speaking high tech, and now let's go high in the sky with Alex in the airport.
Good morning. I'm excited to report that our airport is growing and it's doing quite well. Our fuel sales, aviation fuel sales, and our aircraft operations have been growing these past 2 years despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Our partnerships with the FAA and FDOT, who are big supporters of our capital improvement program, have been growing strong and continue to produce infrastructure improvements year after year. Currently, we have our Taxiway B rehabilitation project under construction. That's a $3.5 million construction project fully funded by the FAA. The one thing that we have been focusing on the last few years to improve is our capacity. Hangar demand is at an all-time high across the state and really across the country. And we have available land to develop on to build hangars, but we want to make sure we maximize the use of that land. And so we've contracted with our aviation engineering consultants to produce a development plan that maximizes the aeronautical and non-aeronautical sides of our available property. And as part of that project, we're partnering with Clark McDowell Powell to create a marketing strategy for that development and for the airport as a whole. And that project is nearing completion. As you can see in some of the diagrams here, there's layout plans for all of these vacant properties, including a footprint that we're working to build on for our partnerships with the school district of Polk County and Polk State College Aerospace, where we'd like to see a long-term aerospace education facility. And I think that's on our horizon. As we look towards 2023 and 2024, we plan to continue to invest in our airport infrastructure. Our partnership with the FAA should help produce a south apron rehabilitation project, which you can see is a sizable apron on our south side of the airport. This project would increase safety and mobility of aircraft, which abuts most of the businesses that are on this side of the field, so that would be an exciting project to have funded. Investments in the airport are going to continue to grow and produce and ultimately help us reach our goal of becoming self-sustaining. As you can tell, the city The FAA and DOT are making a lot of investments into the airport, and I'm going to be followed by Julie, who's going to be talking about additional investments in parks and recreation in the northeast section of our city.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, so Lake Conan Nature Park, what we have done so far on this project is the wetland treatment system. If you've been by there, you've seen some of the development that's happened. And in addition to that, on the north side of that property, there will be recreation elements that will be placed. And we're working on what that's going to look like. But what you can look forward to is water access, potentially kayak launches, some access for water sports there, mobile water sports, and also restrooms. So that will complete and round out. You can see the schematic behind me of what you can look forward to. And we're really excited. This is an awesome opportunity for us to pair up not only the wetland side, the more passive recreation, but also active recreation as well with a playground. And so anytime we get to join those two efforts together, we're happy about that. Also, I want to talk about the investments being made at the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. And this is a project that's super near and dear to my heart because this is my first project here on this team that I'm going to be able to see from beginning to end. And so, although a lot of work has already been done on the front side to get public input, to talk to our citizens, once we really got into this project, it began as a humble renovation, a smaller budget in scope. And after we dug into what was needed in this facility, it became very obvious to us that it was necessary. It's a 50-year-old building. It is near and dear to the community, the purpose, the service, the meaningful aspects of this community are near and dear, but it just needs more than a humble renovation. So the scope of this project has grown to include a complete rebuilding of the facility and that entire campus. And so we are in master planning and design now to discuss, and we're figuring out how that's going to lay out. We've had a lot of healthy conversation with the community. We're really excited to see what you will be seeing in this facility that we know. We just don't know what it's going to look like. A double gym rather than a single gym, which athletic enthusiasts will be really excited about. Some library components. We're going to have library access for the community and also the children. We have a thriving after-school program there, and we're really excited to open up some more opportunities for them for both the tech side and production. And while we all know, I'm sure you guys at some point have listened to a blog or you know how big YouTube and production is, so we want to open up those opportunities for the children as well into growth. The library component, community room spaces, so we continue to encourage community involvement in that facility. Really excited to what that's going to be in the future. We hope to begin construction later this year on that project. Also, we have Lake Maud Park Phase 2. So what you see now is an event space, an activity space. We're home to the Wolverines there for competitive action, but a ton of community events. We've seen our first Juneteenth, the city's first Juneteenth celebration was held there this past June. We have community events happening. We have church anniversaries. Unity in the community, a lot of things happen there to bring the community together. And now with this expansion, we're going to be adding a baseball field, another multi-purpose field, and some connectivity. So it's going to be an opportunity to provide more community events, more community involvement, and we're really looking forward to that as well. All right, and with that, I'm going to pass that along to Charlie Bird.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning. So the Department of Public Safety is comprised of police, fire, and code compliance. And what we do is we protect life, we protect property, and we improve quality of life. How do we do that? We do that through getting efficient services out there, quick services, protecting people, but also through partnerships and relationships with our community. So one of our projects is to build a new station, a complex, public safety complex, at the Fairfax water plant, which is right near Polk State College and at the Diamondplex, for those of you that hopefully you know where that's at. And we're going to put a complex up there. And what that's going to do is, first and foremost, it's going to be providing those quick services because we're going to have a fire station up there. It'll have an engine that will do fire services, ALS services, which is advanced life support, same thing that an ambulance does. And then we will have a footprint for law enforcement as well. We're also looking to put code compliance up there. And what we're looking for this complex to be is basically a hub, a easy access to government, to all of us, to be able to continue to build those relationships, to continue to enhance the quality of life, and to provide the quickest service that we can to our community. Another location, and my mom always said, look for the bright things in life even when things are going bad. We've all had a really interesting time with COVID, right? So it's easy to look down. Many people have taken it and really enhanced things. Well, the fire services was no different. We had to spool up some temporary stations around the city because we had to protect our firefighters to be able to provide those services. And the bright side of this is you've seen the temporary station up on Havendale Boulevard probably. But what it did is it gave us real data, not projections, real data on that is exactly where we need to put a fire station to provide those services and to provide and to protect life and save lives. So the other location that we'll be building a facility is some property that the city owns right on Lake Hartridge. Lake Hartridge there, and it will also give us quick access to the lakes with our watercraft. And I have a pretty short section here, so I'm done. I'm going to hand off here.
Thank you, Charlie. So, you know, we talked about the sapphire necklace and creating the loop around the city for moving basically our water resources to where they're needed. So we have different projects going on throughout the city right now. We have, you know, out on Dundee Road, we're working with the highway department to install utilities there. But one of the things that we have to do throughout the years is make sure that we protect and enhance the existing infrastructure that we have here in the city. In the past year, we invested roughly $4 million, and we plan to double that this coming year, in making sure that we upgrade our facilities. It included 6 priority lift stations that we completely rehabilitated. You notice the water towers were painted this past year, and the logo went on the one here in Magnolia Street, so that ready for that celebrations. But we also replaced a long distance, basically more than a half mile of AC water main, and this is water main that was removed from the markets back in the 1970s.
It's always exciting when I get to hear MJ reference garbage as being sexy or not sexy. It's never really come into my thought process. And Julie wanted to make sure I share with you, you know, when we talk about that Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center project, that's not just about renovating a building, that is renovating an entire campus. So in addition to that building, there's also a new swimming pool, new splash pad, new playground, an entire just revamp of that many-acre site that we have there. So a lot of cool, exciting things. We wanted to start this first part off with what causes us to change. So just the natural evolution and aging of our infrastructure has to be addressed. Eric talked to you a lot about what that growth looks like in Winter Haven. It's happening, what's forthcoming. That spurs us to make decisions via the City Commission on where do we invest. And everything you heard today is about investment. It's not about going out and spending money and building things. It's about investments. It's about taking time, energy, and resources and putting that into play right now so that it's there to support all these things coming forward. Beyond that, there is the citizen engagement component. And that is so important to our leadership, to the commission, to the city manager. And at this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Hurd up, who's going to talk about what we're doing to foster and strengthen citizen engagement here in Winter Haven.
Thank you, T. Well, I think every time I come here, I always get in the middle of that light. I got to figure out a different way to do this. I hope you realize that we get this question all the time about how are we addressing the impact of growth on our city. And I hope this storyboard shares with you some of our strategies that we put into place with respect to investing in capital projects that are all geared toward improving the quality of life in our city. So I get to do this. I get to be city manager, and I'm proud of that day in and day out. And I'm also very pleased to be able to work with such an exceptional leadership team. So can we have one more round of applause for an exceptional leadership team? In addition to all the employees that work for our city and our leadership team, the City Commission is all rowing in the same direction. And so consequently, the City Commission deserves a lot of credit for having the wisdom to take a look at the recommendations that we provide them. They ask a lot of really good questions. They ask the tough questions to be able to make sure that we're spending your dollars wisely. And they do that every day. Every time we meet, I mean, this is a good City Commission. They're a good board of directors. They're busy rowing, and they're going to let us steer. And that's the best. When you have that dichotomy, you've got a winning team. Cal Bone, our Chief Financial Officer, and Alan Weeks, these two individuals and other people that you don't see here today, but they are here today, they deserve a lot of credit for making sure that we have a balanced budget and that we have reserves and that we have the financial ability to be able to commence with all these projects so our city just continues to get better and better all the time. Our HR director is here today, Sean Dykes. Our organization development specialist, Conan is here today. And those two ladies are very important members of our team because they come up with really good ideas for us to be able to keep only the best and the brightest as far as employees are concerned and attracting and retaining the best. Christine Samuel is our Director of Diversity and Inclusivity. She is one of the newest members to our team. And so she's been here now, I guess, probably close to a year and a half or 2 years. And so in 2019, we brought the City Commission a recommendation. We needed to invest and be more proactive with respect to diversity and inclusivity. And the first thing that we did, and I know this may sound a little bit basic, but it's so very important. We came to grips as a team and as a city government. What does diversity mean? And when do you have it and when do you not? And what does inclusivity mean? And are we being inclusive? Diversity, the diversity to me means that within city government we have a makeup. The makeup of our workforce reflects the demographics of our city, and for the most part, ours does. But we have some work to do. And inclusivity means that are we willing to invite different people or people that have different ideas? They come from various cultures and all races, gender, age, etc. Are we willing to accept views that are different than ours? And are we able to have resolution at the end of the day? And so we needed to do a better job. And so that's why we brought Christine on board, was to help us do that and work with our HR team internally and then also externally with respect to all of our neighborhoods in our city. And proud to say that we do have internally, we have a diversity and inclusivity team that our leadership team with respect to our deputy city manager, myself, our HR director, working with our department heads, we formed the diversity and inclusivity team. And this team focuses on recruitment and diversification of the city workforce. And since forming this team, many projects and events have been initiated to celebrate diversity. June 2021, we had our inaugural Juneteenth celebration in our city. October 21, the Hispanic Heritage Luncheon, and this photo is an example of that. Great luncheon. We had that at the Garden Center. The local African American Hero Celebration is coming up. We'll be raising banners of local heroes, beginning the celebration of MLK activities. That would be join us. That's coming up. We have the City of Winter Haven Unity Luncheon on January 14th at Norma Hall, and then on 2022. we're going to have a community-wide Hispanic festival in our city. So we celebrate what we have in common, and we recognize in a civil way the differences that exist between cultures, bringing people together, exchanging ideas, and being open-minded. And so the diversity and inclusivity team, their main role is to be really good ambassadors and help us change where we need to be changing and show respect and civility for all of us. Public Safety Director Byrd, I think Charlie is still here. The Public Safety Director Byrd came to me several months ago and wanted to form what we call our Public Safety Advisory Council. I thought it was an excellent idea. I think that the Public Safety Council, established in 2021, it's a collaborative partnership between public safety departments and citizens to facilitate the flow of ideas related to police, fire, code compliance, and to promote strategies between citizens, users, the business community, government agencies, and educational entities. Simply stated, to bring more transparency between our community and our departments of public safety, particularly police services. We want to be very transparent in all that we do and give citizens access. That's inclusivity right there. And this group, the formation of this group, appointed by the City Commission, and the City Manager had one appointment. This group is reflective of the demographics of our city. I think that's what's most important. Dialogue. Let's talk about issues. Let's don't let them fester. That's the main thing. And that's why we established this group. We don't want unrest in our community. We want to be able to address matters before they arise. And that's the whole philosophy of this. Next. We're really excited about the new concept, our Youth Advisory Council. Engage and involve the youth through the city vision, develop leadership capacity. They encourage lifelong civic responsibility, provide opportunities for youth services and legacy projects. And then, of course, you see some of the incentives. This Youth Council, I think, is a fantastic idea. I'm tickled to death that Julie Adams and our Parks, Recreation, and Culture team is going to be moving forward. We'll be bringing a membership proposal to the City Commission. We've already talked to the City Commission about this a couple of months ago, so the Board of Directors is on board. So here's an opportunity for youth in the community, your kids, to be able to participate in local government. So we're looking forward to seeing young people shine in our city. Our newest member of our team today is right here in the front row, the Katrina Hill, our Director of Public Affairs and Communications. She replaced Donna Sheehan, who retired in November, and so we welcome Katrina. I don't know if Alex is here or not, but I have to tell you, we've gone through about we've hired 3 of his advertising director positions in the last 3 or 4 years, so fortunately he's still speaking to us, but we're glad to have Katrina on board, and already showing a lot of signs of being proactive, and she's going to be helping us with our message. Civic engagement is an area that we probably need to do a better job, and that's why when we went through recruitment to fill this position, we wanted to bring on somebody that had a lot of experience with digital communication and messaging, and helping us to have a proactive relationship with all of our neighborhoods in the city, downtown, the southeastern part of our community, you name it. So we want to bring all of our groups together and make sure that everybody in the city has a good understanding of how their tax dollars are being spent. Next, please. And welcome aboard, Katrina. Okay, the legislature. Yes. The legislature. The first thing we want to do is we want to thank Governor DeSantis for coming here in October and presenting us with a check for $6 million to help us build the College Road extension, which is going to give us a collector road that's going to open up the industrial campuses and provide better access between Interlogistics Parkway and Pollard Road. So there also is a $3 million grant coming from the intermodal funding from the DOT. So that's a total of $9.4 million. So we thank Governor DeSantis for that. We had a very good day with the City Commission and the Governor with respect to that announcement. The future is ours with respect to continued economic development, investment in economic development, and jobs. So the ILC is operating the way it should be. We've got new businesses coming on board, as you know, and so that's going to help us expand our economy. But with respect to the legislature does some good things. Don't get me wrong. They do. I know it sounds like that I'm getting ready to take off on the legislature. I don't think Representative Killigrew is here today. But Representative Killigrew has been a local hero in the sense that he has advocated for home rule, and he has resisted some of the practices that happen with respect to the legislature balancing their budget. Sometimes they feel a need to take money from their trust funds and balance their general fund budget. Okay? What's anything wrong with that? Well, they do that. But preemption bills are filed regularly. Preemption bills are bills that are intended to place constraints on local government from being able to provide services pursuant to home rule. We believe in local government that we are the government closest to the people. And so the preemption, every year that a preemption bill is passed, that every time a preemption bill is passed, a little bit of home rule is taken away. That means that the citizens of Winter Haven, you lose your power. And that just is not right. So I encourage you to have conversations, sit down and have a cup of coffee with Representative Killigrew, with Representative Bell, with Senator Stargell, with Representative Colleen Burton, and Senator Albritton. Do not make sure that you know who you're sending to the legislature every time you vote. Not just the legislature, but everybody you're sending into office. Home rule is important. There's a couple of preemption bills that are a concern. One is a bill that has been offered that is going to have a committee hearing, and it has to do with disallowing cities and counties to be able to charge a dividend to their utility fund and transfer that dividend to the general fund to help balance the general fund budget and try to keep property taxes as low as possible. And that bill is going to get a hearing. Now that would cost us about $5 million. The City Commission, in 2017, 2016, thereabouts, I came here in 2017, the City Commission set a goal that for every year we would reduce that dividend by $300,000 a year. And we have done that. Okay? But that money goes into the general fund, in part, to help us balance our budget so we can try to do everything we can to keep the property tax millage the same every year. Now, 3 years ago, we did increase our millage by 1 mil. And you see these capital projects today? That 1 mil is helping to pay for those capital projects. Cash. Now, am I against the preemption bill with respect to the dividend? You know, I'm not sure really what the philosophy of the sponsors are. If the philosophy is about government, local government should tighten its belt. And if you can't afford to do something with the millage that you've established, then don't take it from your utility fund. Well, I don't know if that's part of the philosophy or not. What we do know is that there are things that happen around the state of Florida, and just because they happen in one city doesn't mean that you can't fix one problem and do it statewide if you don't have that kind of a problem. All right, one thing I want the voters to know, the ratepayers to know, in our utility fund, while we are transferring this dividend to balance out the general fund, we are also spending between $4 to $8 million a year in renewal and replacement. That means this, that we are reinvesting and we are taking out the old system and putting in the new system, so we don't have overflows, and so we have good water quality, and that we're taking care of the environment. We don't have a lot of sewer overflows here. Certainly we're the city of Lakes, so we want to protect the environment. Now, I would come to the city commission and say this: if we had a lot of overflows and we were paying out fines to EPA and DEP right and left, then I'd say, hey, wait a minute. We need to slow down and we need to reduce the dividend to the general fund because we can't take care of the pipes underneath the ground. But that's not been the case here in your city. Now, there was a case in South Florida where a city was taking a lot of money from their dividend and putting it in their general fund, and then consequently they didn't have the dollars to be able to handle renewal and replacement. Well, okay, don't tell every city in the state of Florida that you can't take a dividend from your utility fund to your general fund because, did you have a hearing on this? Did any legislator call somebody locally and ask? You want to think about that. The answer is no. So before you go try to fix something that's not a problem statewide, then what are we doing here? So and do we have any say over whether or not the legislature decides to take money out of their trust funds? The answer is no. So do unto others, all right? I think that's our message. And we need the business community to get behind us on this. The recruiting business to a new community, helping existing businesses expand, you must have a reliable utility system. And you have one. And we're still able to make this transfer. So that's a preemption bill that's been filed that is an issue with us. The other one, that's the Florida League of Cities, I think, has taken a position on this one. There's a Senate bill and a House bill. They're companions. Every ordinance that the City Commission passes during the year must have a business impact statement accompany that ordinance. And so we have to be able to tell you what the impact is to a particular business for every ordinance that we approve. Now, it also allows the private sector, if you are somehow damaged by an ordinance that's passed by local government, and I don't know that anybody can really define what that damage is, but they've sure done a good job of outlining what the private sector can recover in the way of that damage. And by the way, if the local government prevails in a damage suit, we are not allowed to collect our expenses. But the private sector is. Now, I'm not against the private sector, but I'm saying what good for the goose is good for the gander here. And so I don't have a philosophical problem about providing a business impact statement. I think that's probably a good idea. But I would only expect let local government decide what that business impact statement ought to say. Don't tell us what it ought to be. And by the way, legislators, don't make the requirements more onerous on local government, who serve the people that you do, than what you do for yourselves when you pass a bill. Because they're required to have a business impact statement on every bill that they file. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think that it needs to be within reason. So we watch preemption. We watch a lot of bills that go through the legislature. We pursue the Florida Recreation Development, the FERDAP program. That is where grants come from. We've got some of these projects that you saw this morning. We readily go after FERDAP money. In order for us to get a couple of these projects funded, we need for you to contact our legislators and ask them to approve what the governor put in his proposed budget. $10 million statewide to fund projects funded by the FERDAP grant. That's a must. We need for you to take time, write Representative Killigrew, write Senator Albritton, and tell them that you want $10 million for the projects. We've got 2 projects that have already been ranked, 1 and 2. So if we can get the $10 million, then we've got a good chance of being able to get our 2 projects funded. And we want everybody who's participating in that $10 million, let's get as many projects funded around the state of Florida as we can. $10 million FERDAP. Call Killigrew, call Ben Albritton. The Heartland Headwaters Act is an act that funds projects that have been prioritized by what we call the Polk Regional Water Cooperative. When we're asking for $20 million, we're asking for that to be a recurring revenue source. $20 million is what we need. If we can get $20 million, and the way it works, there's about 15 projects that have been ranked by the Polk Regional Water Cooperative. That is a board. Our liaison serving on the Polk Regional Water Cooperative is Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong. The $20 million starts from the top and works its way down on the projects until that money is spent. The City of Winter Haven, we probably have 5 projects that we can get funded if we're at $20 million. The Heartland Headwaters Act that's just what that act is for, to be able to put money in there every year, and we're asking for $20 million. Killigrew, Representative Killigrew, and State Senator Ben Albritton. Write them and tell them you encourage them to appropriate the $20 million for the Heartland Headwaters Act. All right, continuing, we monitor what's going on with respect to federal, with respect to the American Rescue Plan. We have $7.7 million based on a formula that has been allocated by the federal government. So that money is basically monitored by the Treasury Department. It can be used for water, sewer, broadband investments, affordable housing, just to name a few categories, and probably some recreation as well. So we're going to be advancing a proposed spending plan to the City Commission, probably at the second meeting in February, about how we would propose to use the American Rescue Plan money that has come our way. And we'll have a public hearing as part of that process and take comments for the citizens as well about that plan. The Infrastructure and Jobs Act, you know that's $1.2 trillion. We're still really going through that act to figure out, as a medium-sized city, how we can capitalize on those local dollars. I'll be the first to tell you that for transportation, with respect to that $1.2 trillion, if you're a city of 250,000 and above, you probably have a transportation system where most of that money is geared for. So there may not be a lot there for us, but certainly there will be something. And so we're going to continue to search the details and then compare that with the needs that we have here locally. Congressional redistricting. Well, not a lot of us have too much to say about that. That's going to be done. There's a process based on the news reports. We have Congressman Soto now. I will say this. Congressman Soto works with every member of his district, and so he works both sides of the aisle. And he does a really good job listening, and he really has the command of all these pots of money. I'm telling you right now. If he doesn't want to be in Congress, we need to hire him because he knows where those pots of money are. Good to work with. His staff is very responsive. Redistricting says that we would lose him, that he would be the Serbian Lake, Osceola, and that's where they're not Polk. And then the congressman, what is the congressman's name in Lakeland? He used to be on City Commission? Yeah, Scott Franklin. Scott Franklin would be our congressman. We would have one congressman serving Polk County and be his own district. So I don't know, if you like that, then say you like it and tell the people in Congress that you do. If you don't like it, then tell them that. But don't take anything for granted. Make sure that you pay attention to these issues. Make sure you pay attention to the people that are running for office. Because the local government is very important. We draw our strength from the people that we serve. And that's all of you.